Contractor, for those of y'all that are doing the work orders within it, allows us to be able to put the work order in, have it automatically sync up with the cloud, which is where the mobile service is, let them do their work, and at the same time, it's automatically syncing up with your server throughout the process. So there's no sync that's ever pushed. It's automatically feeding back and forth. So let's start off first looking at the work orders within the system. So when we first come into the work orders, a lot of y'all are familiar with it because you own the product. First thing we would do is we'd come in here and we would select who our client is. It would tell me if there's an outstanding balance, and then within that client I could come over here and select the location. And so I could select that location that it delves with. And so each customer can have multiple locations. So the next step I'm going to say is fix plumbing leak, and then I'm going to make an additional note to Joe about. So I'm making whatever notes I need to that are going to be going with the technician. So I can just do as much as that and just hit save, take the next phone call, the next phone call, the next phone call. Now through this process, I may choose, okay, I have it out there. Now I got a break, so I'm going to open up my dispatch board. I'm going to see all the work orders that are out there that I need to see. And I'm going to see here I have that work order I just did. And I'm going to assign it to Billy. I'm going to give it to Billy to do today, Wednesday at 8 o'clock, and it's going to take him most of the day. So I'm going to assign it. So I can use this dispatch board and assign it to Billy and through my other technicians throughout the day. This, of course, is all part of the core Stage 100 contractor service. I could also, as part of the core, take a right-click and email the technician to let him know that there's a work order that I put on his dispatch board that he has. He may not be sitting there with his Android app or his iPad app open waiting to hear from me, but if I email them, they will automatically know that, hey, I have a service call, where it's located, some information about it, and then at that point in time, they may pull up their tablet. So as soon as I put it on their dispatch board, it automatically will be available in their mobile app. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the mobile app over to here, and you should be able to see it now. Now the mobile application, the Sage Service Operations, what it allows you to be able to do is work with the software. All I need is a web interface. I could have a Surface computer, an iPad, an Android. Technically it would work on an iPhone if you had really good vision. But anything with a web-based application I can tie it into. And it's built off of HTML5. It gives it a lot of flexibility to go on future software and hardware that may come out. So here is that Heritage Apartments work order 133 that I just assigned to them. So this is the technician start page where they can see everything that's been assigned to them, the different work orders, what to do first, second, and third. So I'm able to see what I'm going to do this week, next week. What I'm going to do is switch over now to the dashboard. The dashboard here is designed around more of the management team that's looking at what's going on out in the field. So they could use this as kind of an executive dashboard, and they can be viewing this from the office to see the work orders that we've done today, what's been invoiced, recent activities. It's going to keep an eye on what people are doing out in the field. On the dispatch tab, within Sage Operations, it allows us to be able to push this dispatch out also into the web. So as I was showing you before, we use the dispatch board within Sage 100 Contractor. This is the dispatch board within the mobile operation. And so we can see it works the same way where we have the different people we're going to give it to and the different assignments we're working with. But it allows us to be able to look at, let's say, a month-long view of everybody's schedule and not just look at the next 5 days or 4 days within our normal dispatch board. So I can look at a week view out there, I can look at a 2-week view, I can look at a month view. So now it's expanded my dispatch board to see a few more things out there. The other thing it allows me to be able to do, let's put my month view in here, is you can see down here just some work orders that I've filtered out that need to be assigned. So if I know I'm going to assign this, I could actually assign this to a technician on this dispatch board. So when I do that, it automatically syncs up with the dispatch board I have in the office. So it allows us to be able to bring those two pieces together, and that way I can use this to dispatch. I can look at dispatches. It's going to keep it always in sync. The next thing it's allowing me to do is down here, it's going to show me a map of where all my technicians were when they last connected in with the device. So it's not a pure GPS like maybe a Fleetmatics where you pay a monthly service and you can follow the truck and get mileage and track it all the way through. This is something that's just included as part of the process where I can look at this and I can see where my technician was the last time he clicked on a button within the mobile service operation. So it's something that's included. You may or may not find some value in it. Let's go back to the assignment tab. So when we look at the tabs across the top, we talked about the dashboard and the dispatch. There's also a quote tool. Works just like the quote tool you have in service work orders, but it's resident in the cloud. So I can come in here and create a quote, send it to a customer, turn that quote into a work order. Once I turn it into a work order, it becomes a work order in the system that syncs up with Sage 100 Contractor. They've also added a feature where I can enter job time in here. So I can enter a project daily field report from here that has nothing to do with service, and it's all controlled by security. And then we can look at the deployment assignments. I can add work orders on the fly. So as we go through here, I'm going to show you some features. Some are part of the core, and some of them are part of buttons you can turn on and off. So let's take off first. Let's say I'm the technician. I just got this call to go to the heritage departments. So I may notify the site first. And so if it's not part of if it's not in their database, I'm going to add an email here and send it out and basically say, hey, I'm going to send you an email real quickly to tell you I'm heading to your office. So that's a feature that you can choose to use or not use if it adds any value out there. Now the second thing is I'm going to head that way. I may click on Heritage Apartments, and one of the biggest nightmares of a service technician is they go out to a place, they get yelled at because they didn't fix the plumbing leak from last week and it just got restarted. And so they're blind, right? You don't know what was out there, who was out there. But with the mobile app, I can click on work orders and see every work order that was out there that was done. I can open up the work order, see who did the work, see what they did, see their notes. I have access to all of that out in the field, and no longer do I have to call the office and get this information. I can see the 3 locations that we manage out there. If I'm doing HVAC and I've installed new air conditioner and I'm doing a work order on that air conditioner, I can see that out in the field, and I can see all the repairs we've done on it, who was out there in the last work order that was being done. I can see a list of all the quotes that are being done out there that either I or somebody else has given them. Then we also, as I'm going to go into when we do the work order, a little bit on custom forms, but there's a custom form design that's designed around allowing you to build your own forms. It could be preventive maintenance forms. It could be things that are signed off manually. You may have a form already in your system. It allows us to be able to do that. And then who the contacts are, if you have any service contracts and other content. So from this, I could click on directions and it'll give me a Google map. I could add a work order if I had the ability to add work orders out in the field. I could generate a quote if I had the ability to generate a quote out in the field, and add a client location. We usually don't see that as an option that people will let their technicians do. So let's look at this one work order, which is that fixed plumbing leak that we did in the office. So I'm going to click on it. Up here where it's asking me to share my location, that's where it's pinging the location and letting the office know where I am when I clicked on that work order. So here's some of the information you see. We see the work order 113. We see the Heritage Apartments. We see there's that description that came from the office to fix the plumbing leak. We see over here where it said, talk to Joe about the issue with the leak. All that information that our office did, I didn't have to send this work order out. They have all the information that the office has. Now here's a button we can choose to use or not use, new purchase order. Now we see some people that will let technicians go to the supply house, get supplies, and take it and install it. Other people make them call the office and get a purchase order and install it. Now if that's the case, usually people do that for control. So when they get a bill from the supply house, they want to know who picked up the material and where it belongs. You could have the technician do a very simple process of adding a new PO, selecting your supplier, giving the supplier the PO number that our system gives them, so that now when you get a bill from the supplier, it will be connected with this work order, so you don't have to worry about these bills being mixed around and not being attached and have the profitability associated with it. But again, that's a feature I can choose to use or not, and I can choose when I do a work order to do it in detail with parts that I'm buying and have that automatically feed in. New quotes, if I want to do a quote, I can again do a quote from here. And here is the location notes that it's pulling from Sage 100 Contractor. If you're in your client tab under locations, there's a note field in the far right, and that will flow to the technician. So if there's anything that they need to know on every work order they go out to, it could be a code, it could be how to get into the entrance, it could be there's a guard dog out in the field. Any of that can be noted for them. So when I first start out here, when I start traveling that way, I may choose to have my start and stop times on the system. So I can choose travel time start on there, and so that extra feature is there. So if you want to be able to analyze how much time am I spending on travel, how much time am I spending on actual billable time while I'm there. So they'll travel to the site, and then when they get there, they're going to click on Travel Finish, Start Assignment. And so now they're starting their time. Again, an optional field you can choose to use or not use. So now I'm allowing the system to track my time against this work order, which will feed into the office, which will feed into payroll without anybody double entering anything. Down here we see the blue notes. So the blue notes, my internal notes from the system. There's the one that was written in the office. Down here is the yellow notes. This is what our customer is going to see. Reviewed, leak, and fix with patch. So you're going to put all your notes that you want your customer to see either on the invoice or on the signed work order. If I choose to submit these notes, what that allows me to do is the people back in the office can get live updates in their email of what I'm doing within the process. So I can do that just as a communication way to do it. I come over to the labor side now. Now I want to add labor. Here's the different employees I have access to. I'm just going to put myself on here, and I'm going to manually put in labor for payroll and regular installation. It's going to bring in a default price. If I want to associate it with a piece of equipment that I was doing some work on, any notes I want to put in, and then I'm going to save that one in there. So now it's allowing them to, just like now they would write this into a work order, it's allowing them to be able to add these items into the work order. So there's my payroll and there's my installation. You'll see it's allowing us to be able to have the payroll either use as a time clock or just typing it in. Then on parts. Parts uses the same assemblies and the same parts that are in Sage 100 Contractor. So if I grab a part out there, I can type in what I know about the part. I'm going to grab this part, and I'm going to say I need 2 of these. If it's going to be in inventory, I could choose the inventory location it's coming out of and save it into there. So I can have access to the inventory in my truck, the inventory in the warehouse, or just adding a part that I want to build a customer. Same thing with assemblies, I can do that. On miscellaneous items, this allows me to be able to add any type of item that I know that I want to add that's not part of my database. So I'm just going to add a HVAC unit. So again, it's a free form, so I can add whatever I want within that. So now I've added labor, I've added parts, just like I would usually write this down, now I'm having the technician put it in the system. Then I can add a report. Now the report, I only have one of them in here, but you can have multiple form designs. So the forms can be based on the type of work order. It can be the type of customer that automatically gets connected. But I'm going to say that we had to fill out this summer preventive maintenance form. I'm going to click on it. This shows you an example of some of the powers of the form design. This is a tool that comes with the software, allows you to create your own forms, so you don't need to have a consultant come in and do all the forms for you. And like this one has a checklist where I'm putting in a little matrix of what my answers are. Maybe I'm having the technician sign it, and I can put the email in if I wanted to have this emailed separately to the office. Now this one shows you a matrix view. We have yes or no drop downs. We have drop downs that you pick from. It's pretty extensive on how creative you can be on building your own forms. By doing it within the system, now it's all interactive, all within the system, stays out there, keeps a permanent record of it. So that's one of the benefits you have out there. is that now it's built in. I could have clicked on attachments, opened up an attachment, a PDF that's on my iPad, filled it out, saved it to this work order, and it would have worked the same way. Also within attachments, what I could do is I could attach photos that I take out at the job site. So I'm on my laptop, so I don't have a camera attached, but I'm going to click on Add Attachments. I'm going to click on Browse. I'm going to add an attachment in here. Put a description associated with it, and then add the attachment. So that attachment can be photos I'm taking before and after, all those things. It doesn't matter. I can attach those as I go through. It could be an attachment for a form that came in that's sitting on my device. So now I'm going to go back to the beginning. I'm going to say the assignment's completed. Any notes I want to do, I can save in there. So now I've finished the work. I've closed out my time capture. Next thing I'm going to do is display the work order for the customer. So here's the work order, the parts that we added, the labor that we added for $125 an hour. I can come in here and say the job's completed. I'm going to show you about how we can collect payment. I'm going to put the person I'm talking to out there, make any comments I have about this. If I want it to be emailed to the customer, I can select their email. Then I hand my tablet to the customer, have them sign that the work was completed as expected, have them click on I accept the terms. And then here's another optional button. Do I want this work order with the attachments to be emailed directly to the customer when I hit save? And I'm going to say yes, I do. Click on that and continue. So now it's doing two things. It's going to email the office the completed work order with the attachments. It's going to email the customer, because I told it to, the email with the attachments. So now I'm getting that communication. Again, I'm not using any hard documents or paper documents anywhere. Now, you'll notice what I did on that was I selected payment. A lot of commercial contractors just invoice the customer, and this is something that would never come up. But I'm able to say, okay, if I'm going to take payment in the field, is it check, credit card, cash? Pick the amount that's going to come in and save it. Currently, we do not have it where you can just swipe the card and do the credit card for people collecting out in the field. I can use my iPad to swipe the credit card as a separate function and have it all flow through, but it's not all interconnected yet. That's something that will be done before the end of the year. So here it gives me a notice to the office that, hey, I collected $3 in cash, just to let you guys know about it. I'm done with the work order. Now I can go back to my assignment page. And now I can grab the next one on my list and just keep working through my workflow. Again, I haven't called the office once. I haven't emailed the office directly with any of this information. So now let's leave this for a second. Let's go into the office and let's see what the office sees. So I'm going to close this and close this, go back into our Sage 100 Contractor, and I'm going to say, okay, the office come in. I've gotten an email that said that work order was done. So again, it would update everything in the system, but now I want to see what the system has done. This is that same work order we were dealing with. Fixed plumbing leak, same comment up here, but notice now it's been added installation labor, copper elbow, HVAC unit. So now all of that's been added based on what the technician in the field did. So that gives us the ability now to be able to see exactly what the technician did. So instead of taking their handwritten work order and now retyping it, this has given us the ability to actually have it automatically loaded, so we're saving the efficiencies of duplicated effort out there. If I click on the Dispatch tab, that start and stop time is going to update in the Dispatch tab. This can automatically be fed into payroll, so now payroll will be time-stamped against this work order, job costed against this work order, so now we can see true profitability of this work order. And so now if the office, if everything looks good, I can make any modifications, add anything I need it to, and then I would click around and I'd say post this work order and allow me to post it and process it and email that invoice out in the system. So it's really saving a lot of time now for our office people. Now if I click on my attachment button, notice what automatically is being attached in the system. A copy of that work order and all the pictures I took out in the field. So I don't have to go to the mobile operation application to be able to open it up and look at those and see what the work order looked like, I'm actually getting a copy automatically attached in the system. So this will happen. So if I ever need to send them a work order that's been signed off by the person out in the field, I can open that up and email that one directly out to the customer. So now I've kind of finished that loop out. So now I've sent the work order out. They've completed it out in the field. They've submitted it back. I've done the final invoicing and closed it out. That's the loop there. Now let's talk about some additional added value out there. So I'm going to pull the mobile application in, and I've just changed the view. Now we're looking at what we call the service operation field view. This is the view where a customer can have a login to look at their history of the work orders with you. So this is a particular customer that has Allstate and Metro as their customers. So they log in, and here are the 3 locations that this customer deals with. And so these are the same locations that are sitting inside your Sage 100 Contractor. If I click on one of these locations, it's going to show me the history of all the invoices that I've invoiced the customer, a listing of any quotes that are out there, any preventative checklists that are out there. It's going to give me that history all the way through the cycle. So now instead of a customer coming to me and saying, can you resend me that invoice, or the customer saying, I don't know why you're out there doing that work, what was the notes on that work order, they can have access to that same information. And again, with security, you control what they can and can't see, including all the things we see on the screen. So if we had sent out some service requests, they'll be able to see those work orders that are in process, what those service requests are. And so they can see those service requests. They can date stamp them, look back in history. Over here on the request service, they can create work orders out of the system. So what they can do is they can come in here and say, okay, for this location, I want to be able to have installation done, give me the notes, put all the notes in there. They can take pictures, and then they can submit that request. And what that's going to allow them to be able to do, it's going to ask me to put in the 200 characters, what the submit request is going to allow them to do is you have 2 options. One is it automatically gets put in as a work order that needs to be dealt with. 2 is all it becomes is an email to your office, and then they put it in manually and assign it. You can have technicians that are automatically assigned to this customer, and they're automatically notified of the work order without any intervention in the office. Those are just some different options you have out there. Another thing a customer can do is if you're working on their equipment and you have a history of what you've done on their equipment, it's going to show you what equipment you've worked on, when you were out there, and the history and the notes associated with it. So not only have I expanded the ability to have paperless between myself and my service technician out in the office, but now I've allowed it to be paperless for the customer so they could log in, have the same history that they may need within the software. So that gives you a good flow from top to bottom of flowing through the software. I didn't go through the quotes in detail. One additional thing on the quotes out there, again, this is a button I can choose to turn on or off, is what the quotes look like in the system. And if I want to view a certain quote, it's the same kind of quoting system that we have currently within the Sage service work order system. Now I'm just giving them the ability to be able to create their own quotes out in the field, turn those quotes into work orders, and of course all of this is tied around security and what a person can or can't do at different levels. So I'd like to open it up to any questions that at this point in time. You have the chat. I don't know if we can unmute, but I'll see if I can unmute them all. Everybody should be unmuted now. Does anybody have any comments or any detailed questions about how these pieces work together? I see one comment in the chat center. That's a good question. One of the questions was, I noticed when you had that work order, it mentioned that the quantity and price was on that work order because, like this person, probably like most, is that they're doing invoicing in the office. You can choose when that work order prints out and gets signed just to have descriptions, notes, and quantities with no prices because a lot of times you want to finish off all the pricing in the field, and you don't want to give them an incorrect amount when they have to sign the work order. So yeah, you can choose to turn that feature on and off, the pricing on your work order, and you can do that customer specific. So certain customers you may show it. If you're in the residential market and you want to show them the pricing, you can show it on there also. Any other questions? There's one comment about how is it priced out. It is a little bit different than the way it's priced out within the server software. So when you buy a Sage 100 Contractor, you own the software, and you'll pay a support and maintenance each year to keep up to date on that software and stay current with your payroll tax tables. This application is sold on number of users that you buy annually. And so if I have, like, I think it starts off at right around $60 and drops down after the 5th user, and that's a price per month that's paid annually. And it gives you the ability to add, if you have one technician that drops off, you can take their username and attach it to one of the portals that you've already assigned. So it allows you to move the users around. If you only have 4, you can move it between different users. We'll see some people that will start off with, they may have 15 technicians, but they want to take 2 of their technicians. They want to run it through the cycle, find out what your procedures are, find the best way to run this for your company, and then use those procedures to expand it to the other 15, maybe 2 months down the road. So there's different ways to implement it. There's no additional cost out of the box for implementation. There's a lot of help features online. There's support through Sage Support that takes you directly to this group. They help you with this. The only software gets loaded is there's one piece of software on your server that gets loaded. Is there a comment?
Muted.
Yes, so there's one piece of software that gets loaded on your server that does the communication. This is actually hosted out in the cloud, so there's no additional installation from that standpoint. Any other comments? Please just type in the chat room if you had any additional comments. Bonnie, did you raise your hand? Did you have a question? Okay, thank you. All right, well, I appreciate everybody's time today. Feel free to follow up with your software account manager that you probably be dealing with. You can reach out to Alliance Direct. We'd be glad to answer any additional questions you have.